3 disturbing true police horror stories.
Story 1. The Call That Was Never Logged. The police department I worked for wasn't large. We covered a quiet stretch of highway towns in the Midwest, places where nothing ever happened, and when it did, it was usually a drunk driver or a domestic dispute that burned out by morning. That's why this case stayed with me, because officially, it never existed. I was a patrol officer in my late 20s when it happened. Night shift, graveyard hours, the kind where the radio stays silent long enough that you start hearing your own breathing through the vest. It was just after 2:10 a.m. when the call came in, except, according to the department, it didn't. The dispatcher's voice cut through the static, sharp and tense. "Unit 12, we've got a 911 hang-up, possible domestic. Address is 318 Cedar Ridge Road." Cedar Ridge was bad news. Old houses, deep woods, no streetlights. The kind of road where your headlights feel swallowed before they reach the trees. I acknowledged and headed out. As I drove, the radio crackled again. Same dispatcher. Caller was a male, whispering. Said there was someone in his house wearing a police uniform. That made my stomach tighten. Police impersonators weren't unheard of, but rare and dangerous. "Did he give a name?" I asked. There was a pause. "No, line went dead." Backup was 20 minutes away. I didn't wait. When I reached the address, the house was dark. No porch light, no cars, just a single-story home half hidden by trees. I knocked, announced myself. Nothing. I circled the house. That's when I noticed the front door. It was unlocked. That alone isn't unusual in rural towns. What was unusual was the smell. Metallic, warm, like pennies and rust. I stepped inside. The living room looked untouched. Couch neat, TV off, family photos on the wall. Then I saw the hallway. There were muddy footprints leading down it. Large boots, police-style tread. My radio suddenly went dead. No static, no signal, just silence. That's when I heard breathing. Not mine. It was coming from the back bedroom. I drew my weapon and moved slowly. The door was half open. Inside, I found a man sitting on the floor, his back against the bed. His eyes were wide open. He was dead. A single gunshot wound to the chest. No blood spatter on the walls, just a dark pool beneath him. What froze me wasn't the body. It was what he was holding. A phone, still lit. The screen showed an open call. I checked the time, 2:09 a.m., 1 minute before the dispatcher said the call came in. I secured the scene and waited outside until backup arrived. That's when things got worse, because when the supervisors showed up, they looked confused. They said dispatch had no record of the call, no hang-up, no whispering male, no mention of an imposter. They pulled the audio logs, nothing. The dispatcher on duty swore she remembered it, but the system didn't. Then forensics made another discovery. There were 2 sets of boot prints in the house. One was mine. The other matched issued police boots, not civilian copies, department issued. They ran inventory. Every officer accounted for. No missing gear, no unauthorized uniforms. And here's the part that still makes my skin crawl. The dead man's phone? When they pulled the call data later, it showed he never dialed 911, not once. No outgoing call, no attempt, nothing. So who called us? And why did the man die after the call supposedly ended? The case was quietly closed, ruled a suicide, but the gun never found. And Cedar Ridge Road, no one lives there anymore, because neighbors kept reporting something strange. They'd call police saying they saw a patrol car parked outside the house, lights off, engine running, but every time a unit was sent, there was nothing there.
Story 2. The body cam that shouldn't exist. I'll never forget the night I reviewed that footage. I was a junior officer in a small city in Ohio. Our department wasn't huge, maybe 60 sworn officers split between shifts. It was the kind of place where the biggest crimes were usually burglaries or car thefts. But every so often, something would surface that shook even the most experienced among us. It started with a call from dispatch at around 11:47 p.m. A domestic disturbance. Standard stuff. A man screaming at someone inside an apartment complex. My partner, Officer Daniels, and I were closest, so we responded. When we arrived, the place was eerily quiet. The front door was ajar, swinging slightly. Inside, the apartment smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. Nothing unusual at first glance. We called out. No answer. I pulled out my body cam and turned it on. Daniels did the same. We moved through the apartment, clearing rooms. The camera captured everything. The flickering light, the peeling wallpaper, the overturned chairs. But then we got to the bedroom. The bed was empty, clothes scattered, a chair knocked over, and on the floor, footprints. But not just normal footprints. They were muddy, deep impressions. They didn't match any shoes we had seen. They were long, almost elongated, almost inhuman. I swear, looking at that footage later, it was like something had stepped in from another world. We followed the prints into the closet. Daniels whispered something about calling for backup. I nodded, but as I reached for my radio, the static hit, louder than usual, almost screaming through the earpiece. Then the temperature dropped. I know it sounds cliché, but the footage shows it. My breath became visible, like someone had turned on a freezer in the middle of July. Daniels noticed too. You can see it on his body cam. He glances at me with wide eyes. Then we heard it. A low, guttural whisper from inside the closet. Don't look. I froze. Daniels froze. We drew our weapons. I edged toward the closet. The whisper came again, louder. My camera captured it perfectly, raspy, broken, like multiple voices layered over each other. Don't. I threw the closet door open. Nothing. Just a dark, empty space. Clothes on hangers swayed slightly, though there was no wind. Daniels chuckled nervously, but I knew he was scared. We backed out of the apartment and called for backup. By the time the senior officers arrived, we couldn't explain what we had just experienced. The apartment appeared normal now. No footprints, no cold air, no whispers, like nothing had happened. But the body cam footage didn't lie. After the shift, I reviewed my footage alone in the office. Daniels had gone home. I paused it, rewound, watched the closet scene frame by frame. That's when I saw it. Something behind me in the reflection of the mirror on the bedroom wall. I didn't notice it during the call, not until I replayed the footage later. It was tall, thin, almost skeletal. Its face, you couldn't see it clearly, but it was wrong in a way your brain refuses to accept. It didn't move like a human. It slithered, almost floating, but you could see the shadows stretching across the walls. I swear froze in the footage, and I froze in real life. Then Daniel's camera caught something my own didn't. It was a figure, crouched in the corner of the room, staring at the camera. It moved its head slowly, deliberately, and then, impossibly, it raised a hand. Not in a threatening way, in a beckoning way.
I replayed the footage again and again, frame by frame. Every time I paused it, the figure seemed clearer, not in resolution, but in presence, like it existed just outside reality, and every time you looked, it was learning that you were watching. I turned off the footage, tried to shake it off. Sleep didn't come that night, or the next. Then the nightmares started. In the dream, I was back in that apartment, alone. The closet door creaked open slowly, and from the darkness came that whisper again. Don't look. I woke up sweating, my heart racing, but something was wrong. My body cam was on. Not just mine. Every officer's body cam in the station had turned on at 3:03 a.m. We tried to check the recordings. Most were corrupted. A few survived, and the ones that did, I'll never forget. The figure, the same one, appearing in every frame, standing behind us while we slept, staring, watching, waiting. The department tried to dismiss it as a technical glitch, a virus, a prank, but anyone who saw the footage, the corrupted files, the mirrors, the reflections, knew it wasn't human. Some officers refused to work the night shift after that. Some left the force entirely. Daniels, he moved to another state. I haven't spoken to him since. The footage, locked away, never shown publicly. I've seen it multiple times. Each time, the figure gets closer. Not physically, but in presence. You feel it creeping into your thoughts, your dreams, your awareness. And here's the worst part. I still hear whispers sometimes, in the quiet of my apartment, at night. Not on my cameras, not through static, but in my head. Don't. And I know, just like the footage, it's still there, watching, waiting. I don't know how it got into the footage, I don't know why, and I don't know when it will leave. All I know is some things shouldn't be recorded. Some things shouldn't exist. And if you ever see a body cam in a dark room, pause it, frame by frame, and pray nothing looks back at you.
Story 3. The Officer Who Never Checked Out. It was a chilly October night when Officer Mark Hansen went missing. I didn't know him personally, but everyone in the department had heard of him. A quiet guy, meticulous, never late, and obsessed with paperwork. He had this habit of double-checking everything, reports, schedules, even the locks on his patrol car. People joked he was a robot, but that night, he wasn't himself. I remember because I was on shift that evening with a few others. We were stationed in a rural stretch of county road in Pennsylvania, fog thick enough to blot out streetlights, trees pressed close to the asphalt. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Dispatch received a call around 11:12 p.m. Hansen had been patrolling a section known for abandoned homes, isolated farms, and a creek that cut through the woods. He reported nothing unusual at first. Then, 45 minutes later, his radio crackled with static. Unit 7, approaching the old Miller place? It cut off. We tried to contact him immediately. No response, only static. Another officer went to intercept, found his car parked at the side of the road, engine off, doors locked, lights out, body absent. His body cam and dash cam were still inside. That's when the real horror began. The dash cam recorded him driving toward the Miller property. Nothing unusual at first. Trees passing by, the fog, the usual rural silence. Then, about halfway down the long dirt driveway, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. Not a person, at least not fully. Tall, thin, limbs elongated, motion unnatural, crawled like it was part spider, part human, but it moved too smoothly to be a prank or a deer. Hansen slowed vehicle. The body cam caught his hands trembling on the wheel. "Hello?" he muttered over the radio. Static answered. The figure moved aside slightly, or maybe just warped around the car. The dash cam angle makes it hard to tell. Hansen's final words before the dash cam cut off were chilling. "I can't get out." The camera continued to record a few more seconds. You can see him reaching for the door handle. It opens, then nothing. Just the fog swallowing the vehicle, tires still spinning, lights flickering, and then complete darkness. We searched for weeks. Helicopters, K9 units, volunteers, nothing. No footprints, no struggle, no sign of Hansen. Only the car, exactly where it was left, untouched. But the body cam, we kept it. Department policy, evidence. And that's when things got strange. Every time the footage was played back, the last few seconds changed. Sometimes you could see Hansen stepping out, sometimes he wasn't there at all, and sometimes something else was in the passenger seat. Something with no face, just a shadow that pulsed as if breathing. Officers who watched it late at night reported nightmares, whispers in empty offices, body cams turning on by themselves, radio static that sounded like someone calling for help, but in a voice no human could make. Weeks later, one of the senior detectives attempted to enhance the footage. Every frame zoomed in revealed tiny details that were impossible. Hansen's eyes, in some frames completely black, no whites, no pupils, just darkness. In others, the shadow in the passenger seat was leaning toward him, not moving like a normal body, but pressing against him, as if trying to merge with him. Some nights, officers claimed they could hear him on the police scanners, not alive, not speaking words, just repeating static fragments. "Don't leave me here." The department officially listed Hansen as missing, presumed dead, but some of us, we know better. Because on my own body cam, while reviewing old footage months later, I saw something that stopped my heart. The camera was in my locker, turned on, light flickering, static creeping across the video. And then a figure appeared, tall, thin, motion unnatural, same as in Hansen's dash cam, and in its hand, his badge. I dropped the body cam. The video kept recording for a few more seconds, then silence. No one in the department ever explained it. We never found Hansen, never found the shadow figure, but sometimes, when the fog rolls in on the old county roads, you can hear a faint radio crackle in the distance, a voice calling out, "Help me." And everyone who knows the story stays in their patrol cars until dawn, because some nights, if you leave the car, you never come back.